In Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic, you can use credits for a lot of things. From buying awesome equipment and healing supplies to bribing people and donating to the poor. But what if you ignored all of that? Can you beat Knights of the Old Republic without spending any credits? By not spending any credits, I mean the following. Not a single credit may ever leave my bank account. I can earn money, but I can never give it back again. Before the war against capitalism officially started, I created Scrooge McJedi. I had no idea what I was doing in this game, and I also never finished it before in my entire life. So if I made some god-awful choices in building my character, rest assured that I won't lose any sleep over it. I put a lot of points into intelligence because I wanted to be good at things like lockpicking and hacking, and charisma for persuading people. And for some reason I put very little into wisdom, which make your Jedi powers more powerful. I kinda regretted that one later on. Scrooge woke up on a Republic cruiser that was getting attacked by some Sith. I let my buddy do most of the work before he sacrificed himself to allow me to escape. You're a hero, Trask. I will remember you for at least the next 5 minutes. My mission had been to protect a Jedi named Bastila, but she had noped out of there way sooner than me, so I hopped into an escape pod and followed her down to the surface of Taris. A fellow Republic soldier named Karth saved me from the wrecked escape pod, and we were like, heck yeah, let's go find Bastila on this planet that was quite swarming with Sith troopers. My first priority was to gather some resources. I had looted some basic stuff up on the ship, and Karth had his blasters, but that was about it. I wanted to make sure that I wouldn't run out of anything anytime soon because I wouldn't be able to buy any supplies. So I went trick-or-treating around the apartment building that Karth and I were holed up in. And well, I robbed anyone I found, including an entire family right in front of their eyes. I met an old guy that had borrowed money from this crime lord called Dawik and helped him out by blasting some bounty hunters away. He was like, thanks, but I still need to pay Dawik $100 or he'll send more people after me, and I just kinda shrugged, so he buggered off to hide somewhere. The bounty hunters' corpses happened to have exactly 100 credits on them, but he didn't know that, so now I was a bit richer and that didn't benefit me in any way at all. I fought against some Sith troopers that were apartment hunting just like me and met another man that had debts with Dawik. He thought I was a bounty hunter, but that couldn't have been further from the truth. I conveniently ignored the option to give him the credits he'd need to clear his name and just promised I wouldn't snitch on him. I also stole the last 9 credits he had. I went down under to Lower Terrace to avoid the capitalism of Upper Terrace, before getting whooped by the Black Volkers, a bad gang of thugs. A good gang of thugs called the Hidden Becks told me that Bastila had been kidnapped by the Black Volkers, so I was on the right track. I tried to break into multiple doors within their hideout to find more free supplies for my journey, but none of them cared about what I needed. I could have gone around hunting bounties, fighting in the arena, playing Pazak, but all of those would have cost me a lot of time and would have just given me money, so I went and cleaned out some more apartments instead. I wanted to go straight for the main mission in the Undercity, but my game had a different idea and decided to crash. When I went down there a second time, my game crashed again. And when I did it a third time, it suddenly worked, but I was now being harassed by some homeless people that tried to squeeze a humongous 5 credits out of me. I had about $700 on me, but I spared not a single dime to these beggars. Destroying capitalism had to come first. I helped Mission rescue her Wookiee friend Zalbar from becoming a slave, and they both decided to enslave themselves to me until the day I died, even though Mission had known me for about 15 minutes and Zalbar for about 30 seconds. Unsurprisingly, there was no talk of money down in the sewers, so this part was decidedly uneventful for this challenge. I found a decent amount of supplies here and there, but I also had to heal myself a lot against all these Rakghouls and Gamorreans, so by the time I was out of there, I was pretty much back to status quo. Mission helped me break into the Volcar base where I had to steal something for the not so hidden Becks. And while the breaking in part was fairly easy, once I was inside, things became a lot harder. If I hadn't robbed my way through half of the apartments in Terrace on my way here, I probably wouldn't have had enough healing supplies to get through this. I also used some repair parts and computer spikes to avoid a few of the fights. Down in the Volcar garage was especially tough. I fought this really strong patrol droid which set me back about 5 minutes to my last save file. Why did I go through that trouble? I'm not entirely sure. All I knew was there was a strong enemy and I wanted to kill it, so I pumped myself full of drugs and fought it off until it exploded. 2,000 credits was the bulk of my reward. That money was never going to see the light of day again. Another win for anti-capitalism. Despite my team going into the final Volcar fight fully drugged out of our minds, we got our asses handed to us over and over again, until I dragged their main guy away from the group and into some broken droids that I had repaired specifically for this occasion. Back outside again, I tried to do this weird riddle for some loot, but I completely botched it. Zalbar somehow survived, so I got an insanely good piece of armor anyways. I met yet another guy that was getting harassed by Dawik and his crew, and he asked me to help him fake his death. I was inclined to do it until he said that I had to purchase some kind of explosive first, at which point I left and abandoned him to his fate. I completely dominated a swoop race in order to save Bastila from the Volkers, and thankfully there was no such thing as a sign-up fee. Once she was free, Bastila could take care of her own anyways, so I kind of just let her do most of the work there. Now that we had her back, we needed to find a way off of Taris, and thankfully a Mandalorian mercenary guy called Canderous approached me with a plan that would take all of us away from there. To do that though, Candy told me to go buy a droid that had specifically been commissioned by Dawik, and that droid cost no less than 2,000 credits, which was 2,000 credits too much for my taste. I spent the entire run pouring my skill points into persuasion for moments exactly like this one, to make the shopkeeper agree that 0 credits was much more appropriate. I gained some dark side points for that, but a little shade on a sunny day has never hurt anyone. To make up for that, we broke into the Sith base on Taris. I did not bribe the Sith receptionist into not sounding the alarm, I merely threatened her, which cost me nothing. This area was once again pretty tough, so I had to use a bit of my supplies, but thankfully I now had a Jedi on my team, which meant that I could heal us using her force abilities instead of my very limited healing packs. The Sith governor at the end was hard. He killed me a bunch of times until I finally succeeded with a chemical cocktail pumping through my veins and my little droid poking him in the butt with a stun ray. Darth Malak started bombarding the entire planet just to take out Bastila. As long as he doesn't force me to pay taxes, I think I should be fine. Canderous brought me to Dawik's compound where I turned into a weird form of Robin Hood, taking from the rich and just never giving it back again. Dawik and his bodyguard Kalo Nord tried to stop us from stealing his ship, but they were no match for us, and we officially took possession of the Ebonhawk and made the Sith destroy a planet for no reason whatsoever. We sought refuge on Dantooine, and I can happily announce that there was not a single mention of money on that entire planet. For the most part, I kept myself contained to the main quest, which meant that I had to deal almost exclusively with the Jedi Council, and it's well known that Jedi don't really need money. I too became a Jedi, and I chose Affect Mind as my very first force power to make sure I could use mind persuasion in conversations. I defeated Juhani and convinced her to return to the Jedi before following in the footsteps of Darth Malak and his old master Darth Revan to find an evil old temple with something called a star map in it. This map led me to 4 more planets, where I would have to find information on the location of something called a Star Forge. Juhani decided to join my crew, and I left Dantooine behind exactly as poor as I had found it. Kashyyyk was not unlike Dantooine in that regard. Wookiees seem to have as small of an interest in credits as Jedi do. Upon landing, I was asked to pay a landing fee of 100 credits to Zerka Corporation, but I'm a Jedi and the Zerka guy agreed that Jedi don't have to pay fees or taxes. I literally can't remember a single instance where money came into play on this planet. The entire story centered around Zalbar's family and how his brother was helping the Zerka Corporation enslave the Wookiees. Not a bad business model, but sadly I was not in a position to make investments at that point. Now that I had Bastila and myself with the power to heal my crew, I had little worries about fighting anything and everything I laid my eyes on. I went to the Undergrowth, where I once again faced off against Kalo Nord, who had survived and wanted revenge. The first time I played this game a few months ago, I picked Tatooine as my first planet and Kalo ambushed me there. So apparently he just finds you regardless of where you choose to go, which is pretty cool. I received another 2,000 credits from his body. He certainly won't be needing it. Deeper in the forest, I met a grumpy old Jedi named Jolie, and he wanted me to peacefully get rid of some Zerka guys. Apparently I overheard the word peaceful, because I just tore them apart, which Jolie wasn't very happy about. I found the star map and also helped the Wookiees become liberated from their slave oppressors. That's about it for that. I had gotten some good equipment without spending any credits on this planet, so I was happy. Tatooine proved to be quite a bit more capitalistic than Kashyyyk and Dantooine. I was again asked to pay a landing fee and very politely refused. A woman begged me to buy some kind of hunting trophy from her because she desperately needed the credits to feed her children and couldn't sell it to the hunting guild because she didn't have a hunting license. Naturally, I told her I'd sell it for her and bring back the money. I did sell it for her, but bringing back those 500 credits would have meant they'd leave my inventory, which was a big no-no. So instead, this kind woman just made a generous contribution towards defeating capitalism. I was not at all interested in doing any hunting since I really didn't need those credits, but I still got myself a hunting license because it was the only way to enter the Dune Seas. My next stop was the Sand People camp deeper inside the desert, and I needed a translator if I didn't want to immediately be attacked on sight. HK-47 could have solved that problem for me, but the guy wanted 5,000 credits for it. I whittled him down to 4,000 and then to 2,500, but he vehemently refused to go any lower than that. I tried to see if there was some dialogue option that would have allowed me to kill him instead, but there wasn't. So I had no choice but to go the non-peaceful route. I fought my way towards the Sand People compound and was instantly killed by their turrets every time I tried to enter. I thought, damn, do I really need the droid after all? Before realizing that I just needed to get some Sand People clothes instead. I got inside the compound where I was immediately attacked because I didn't speak Sand. Picking off these Sand People was pretty easy though, so I murdered not just the men, but the women and any future children they might have had as well. Their compound had plenty of useful loot, so this was actually the most pleasant outcome of this quest for me. By looting a map of the Dune Seas from the Sand People chieftain, I managed to find my way towards the Great Dragon Cave. And once it was dead, I got the next star map. Back at the ship, Mission had a reunion with her brother Griff. Being the bum that he was, Griff asked me for some credits, so I told him to bugger off. When you don't care about making credits, there's quite a lot of things that you can safely ignore in Knights of the Old Republic. I once again didn't do any hunting stuff, I didn't engage in any swoop races, nor took care of any bounties, or played a single round of Pazaak. I could focus entirely on my quest of finding those star maps. I had no choice but to leave HK-47 behind forever as I made my way off Tatooine and towards Manaan. Another landing fee, another persuasion check. The first thing I did was try and solve Sonri's murder case. Doing this quest didn't involve any sort of money transactions, but I just enjoyed going through it. Sonri was an old friend of Jolie's, and even though he was 100% guilty of murdering his Sith side chick, I didn't want to give the bad guys a political win, so I left out some details in the trial and managed to secure his freedom. Then I broke into the Sith compound to steal something for the Republic. This was a tough location to go through, and it cost me a non-trivial amount of my supplies. Especially computer spikes, as I took the liberty of disabling some of their defenses so that I didn't have to fight as much. I was not very strong by this point, so I often relied on drugs and sometimes grenades to carry me through tougher battles. There's a good chance I would have been at least slightly stronger if I'd had the ability to purchase better equipment, but of course I didn't have that option. Towards the end of the facility, I realized that I couldn't proceed to the deeper levels that I needed to go to because I had forgotten to talk to a single random Selkath. So I had to leave and talk to him, but when I left, I was taken into custody by the security forces of the city and promptly put to trial for attacking the Sith. This time I was 100% guilty, and so I was promptly executed about 5 times as I kept using the wrong dialogue lines. Eventually, I proved my innocence by convincing the judges that the Sith had lured me into their base with the intention of turning me to the dark side, and I was merely defending myself. So with my newfound freedom, I went underwater, destroyed the KOTOR harvesting station that was making some legendary shark very angry, and got the next star map. I was almost put to death again, but the Selkath realized I had done something good for once by not killing the big shark, so they praised instead of electrocuted me. This was, by the way, where my knowledge of this game ended. I had only ever played Knights of the Old Republic once before, a few months earlier, and I abandoned that playthrough before I had made my way to Korriban. But now that was exactly where I was going. On my way there, I was suddenly snatched up by the former mentor of Karth, who had betrayed the Republic and joined the Sith. I chose mission to free our crew because I wanted to sneak around a bit. This was a very cool part of the game, but once again there was no hint of anything related to money. Lots of good loot though, and Karth got to take revenge on his old friend. Before he died, he told Karth a secret which made him very upset indeed. Darth Malak quickly confirmed this secret by revealing that I was actually Darth Revan. This was such an amazing plot twist, I was stunned when I heard that. But I was now a good guy. And even though I used to be a very bad guy, that part of me was gone. I was not Darth Revan anymore. I was Scrooge McJedi. And Scrooge McJedi decided to whoop Malak's ass. As usual, I died on my first few attempts, and only when I reloaded a save and pumped myself full of drugs did I win. I also may or may not have completely cheesed Malak by using thermal detonators to keep him away from me. Bastila then told me to escape while she held Malak back, and I was gone before she was even done talking. Once again, the most interesting part of this challenge came with the landing fee. By the time I reached Korriban, I realized that money did not play a large role in this game at all. I joined the Sith Academy here on Korriban in order to get access to the final star map. My teacher was a hot Twi'lek with sick face tattoos, and my first thought was I can fix her. So when she asked me to team up with her and strike down her master, I was pumped. But then I made it through the entire academy, and as the moment of truth arrived, we struck down her master together before she turned on me as well, like a true Sith. So I sadly had to put an end to this dark side baddie. To my surprise, she didn't die, so I let her live in shame as the new headmaster of the Sith Academy, defeated by her own student. By now, I thought that my money would never be useful for anything ever again, but just as I was making my way back towards my ship, I was approached by some shady guy. And I thought, wow, here's what I've been waiting for the entire run. Something really important or useful that I had to pass up because I couldn't spend the money. But it was actually just a shop with some slightly more impressive equipment, nothing fancy. So I went to some unknown planet and helped these guys out by entering their ancient temple, which had been taken over by the Sith. I was strong as hell now, although I had no idea why. Most of the fights inside here were a piece of cake. I also had dozens of repair parts and computer spikes now, so I could fix and hack anything I could possibly want. I fought evil Bastila on top of the temple before following her up to the Starforge, a huge space station that was pumping out the entire Sith battle fleet. There was no landing fee on the Starforge, no vendors to speak of. In fact, I think money has literally zero use once you make it up here. So all I can say is that I got myself a fancy new Jedi robe by hacking into a computer, defeated Bastila again, not once, not twice, but 3 times, confessed my love to her as I successfully turned her back to the light side, and finally faced off against my old apprentice Darth Malak. The fight against him was pretty brutal, and I often had to use my force speed to run away from him in order to heal. None but the strongest healing packs were enough to stave off my death while I fought hand to hand with him, so I'm very glad I had explored and looted so much. But even though I never bought any supplies, I had plenty enough to defeat Malak and save the galaxy. By the end, I was hoarding around 30,000 credits that the Republic would never see again, and with that, I had beaten Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic without spending any credits. Thank you so much for watching, and let me know what other challenges you'd like to see next. If you enjoyed this one, please leave a like and subscribe. If you didn't enjoy it, feel free to leave a dislike, and I'll see you in the next one.